Hello and welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Chris McKinney from Nolan Financial Partners. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 719-210-4242 or visit us online at our website, nolanfinancialpartners.com. And while at our website, click on the radio page, check out our past shows, and you can subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and I think there's Amazon as well now. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions or to set up a face-to-face meeting or even a virtual meeting. When you were a kid getting ready for the first day of school, you probably had some exciting ideas about what the year was going to be like ahead, right? So maybe you're trying out for football or volleyball or soccer, or you're going to do trying to get a lead role in the ball play, or maybe just sitting at lunch and seeing your friends again and sharing some laughs, right? So whatever exciting thoughts you had, you really didn't spend much time thinking about homework, class projects, and big tests, things that you knew you're going to have to do later, but you just didn't really think about it. It didn't come to mind. So it's kind of like that with retirement, right? As your retirement draws closer, that's when you start to think about what you're going to do in retirement. Maybe golfing, long dinners with friends, trips with your grandkids. But just like school, retirement means a little bit of homework. So one piece of homework that we want to address that's part of our retirement planning is understanding your long-term care options. Many retirees may eventually need help with basic things like bathing, getting dressed, eating, and a lot more, but those services come with a price tag. Luckily for some folks, long-term care insurance may be a way to get the services they need without jeopardizing their nest egg. So on our show today, we're going to highlight some of the things you should know about long-term care insurance. But before that bell rings, to start today's show, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tony Shore, who I'm told had two favorite classes when he was a kid.
Yeah, lunch and probably band were my two favorite classes. Lunch and band class. Yeah.
I hung out with I was not a band kid, but I hung out with band kids. I liked band kids.
Yeah.
They had a lot of things going on. They were fun.
The band kids, we had a lot a lot of fun. I'm just going to say
you have a lot of time sitting around thinking of things to get in trouble about.
And school lunch, especially in really all through school. When I was in school, we had the rectangular slices of pizza.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you remember those?
I had those, yeah.
Yeah, those were delicious. The school lunch pizza was great.
Yeah.
I thought. I always enjoyed it as a kid, that's for sure.
There seemed to be a lot of meat on them for some reason. And more meat than you get on pizzas today.
Yeah. Way more. Probably because they had to have X amount of protein. And so they had to meet some kind of protein requirement that they gave.
Sure, there was right? no protein in the cheap cheese they had.
Well, yeah, no. Real tomato ketchup, Eddie? Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best. Yeah.
I liked it. I liked them, though, because they sure beat the hamburgers they made. Or this lasagna was terrible.
Do you remember pizza burgers where it was just half of a hamburger bun with, we had pizza burgers, so half of a hamburger bun, and it was both the tops halves and bottom halves, but just half. And they'd put like ground beef on them and cover them with cheese, and that was called a pizza burger. Do you remember those? We
never had those.
We had those in elementary school. That was kind of crazy. It was like leftover sloppy Joe mix put on a bun and then some cheese and tomato sauce on it.
Bad.
It was actually not good.
Well, all through high school, I worked at my grandmother's grocery store. She called it a grocery store, but it was basically a snack bar for the high school and the middle school. And so I handed out food to kids all during lunch. And then I'd take about 10 minutes and have a chili and Frito pie with a cut up hot dog in it.
Oh, yeah.
Every day for lunch.
I've had that.
For 3 years.
That's good once in a while, but not every day for lunch for 3 years. No. That explains a lot about you right now, Chris.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that. Save those stories for your therapy sessions, Chris.
That's right. How my grandmother tormented me.
Yeah. Yeah. But as for the topic you've chosen for today,
Yeah.
it hits close to home because, as you know, my mom has Parkinson's and is
Right.
now in long-term care, and we've been dealing with that. So I know
Oh,
all
yeah.
about it. And my mother-in-law, it's so expensive. And I know you and Tara both have been advocates for planning ahead for long-term
Right.
care, and there are different avenues you can take for this. So where do you want to start today?
So I want to start with an AARP article, Understanding Long-Term Care. I read through that so I could get some statistics that I wanted to share with you. So
Sure.
please bear with me if I'm reading from some of that. So this article refers to a Department of Health and Human Services study that found that 70% of Americans who reach the age of 65 will eventually need some kind of long-term care during their retirement years. That's three quarters, basically, right? That's most people. So I mean, when we have elections, we only get to like 55%. So just think about that. So the study determined that while some folks will benefit from unpaid care from family, like my dad, my mom's taking care of my dad. It's a drain on her. That's another story. But almost half of retirees will require paid assistance. So I think I'm going to need paid assistance because I don't want to be a burden to my wife. And we don't have kids, so I'm probably going to be going to care. So that's how a lot of people think. So nearly 25% will require more than 2 years of paid care, and 15% will live 2 or more years in a nursing home. So
Wow.
we'll talk about the difference between nursing home and paid care. You probably are quite familiar with the differences. And so paid care is maybe you stay in your house. Nursing home is you're living in a nursing home with full care. So that's
Right.
kind of what the differences are.
Right. Well, the statistic that we don't want to bury the lead, the stat there that I think people need to be really aware of is that at least 70% of Americans who reach the age of 65 will need some type of long-term care eventually. It's almost to the point where it's 1 out of every 3 people will need it. And if
Yeah.
you have a spouse, the odds that you or your spouse will need it are probably good. One of you at least one of you
Right.
will probably need it. So, what are we looking at though in terms of costs? I mean, I know I've heard anywhere from, $5,000 or $6,000 a month for for a nursing home, all the way up
Yep.
to $12,000 for memory care in a nice private facility
Yeah. The costs
a
of the
month.
care vary widely, like you just mentioned. And
Yeah.
it depends on a lot of things. One is how long you'll need the services,
Yep.
where you live. So each state has their own rules, and
Sure.
they're the ones that govern the nursing homes and how much things are get paid, how things are paid, right?
Right.
And then also, what kind of service does the person need that's in that nursing home? Do they need hourly care, or are they able to move around and go down to the lunchroom or not, right? So those are some of the things that will come into play.
Sure.
Here in Colorado, where I live, a typical amount that we've heard is between $7,000 and $8,000 at a modest facility
And that's
for
per
full
month.
per month.
Right.
7,000-8,000 per month
Right.
for a full nursing home situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the thing is, people think, well, I'll have Medicare, but that doesn't cover it, does it?
It doesn't cover it. It only takes care of just the basic stuff, and then there's a lot of caveats on how you get covered under Medicare. And
And it's
then
only for 90 days, even if you can.
only 90 days, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so 90 days, you're on Medicare, and then if you don't have any more money, you go onto Medicaid. So
Ah,
that's what happens after that 90 days. So
Right.
even under Medicare, there's only certain things you're going to get covered for. So it depends upon the Advantage plan that you have for Medicare,
That's
how
true.
those supplements will come into play for you. So
Sure.
you want to make sure that you're that you're well aware of what those are. We have a person that helps all of our clients make those decisions on the Medicare Advantage or Medicare supplement plans, so they can get the care they need, at least for those 90 days and throughout their Medicare, while they're getting Medicare for their primary
Sure. There are
insurance.
there are insurance policies, obviously, and
Yeah,
supplemental insurance and Advantage plans where if you pay extra, you can get the coverage. But traditional
yes,
Medicare will only cover a nursing home if it's needed after a hospital stay, and then only under certain circumstances, and then only for 90 days. So there are a lot
that's
of
right.
stipulations there. And that's why you do need extra insurance to help cover long-term care or a plan. And one thing I wanted to note when you were talking there, you said it depends on what services you need
Right.
as to how much long-term care costs. And I know that from both my mother and mother-in-law, most of these places are a la carte. It's like going
Oh,
to a
wow.
really, 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 really super expensive and super nice steakhouse
It's
in New York
like a
City, where
Ruth Chris on
yeah.
steroids.
Yes, it's Ruth's Chris on steroids, where you order the main dish and it's a piece of meat, and then you're like,
Where's my
how about
salad?
salad, potatoes? That's everything. Like, do you want a little
Everything.
asparagus on the side with that? That's extra. So,
Yeah.
everything's extra. So, that's the way a lot of long-term care is now. It's like, do you need help getting dressed? And there's huge lists. Like, if
Yep.
you need dressed in the morning, that's one fee. If you need dressed at night, undressed at night and help change, that's another fee. If you have to be helped to the bathroom and in and out of bed, those are other
Right.
fees. So every single thing you need help with can be a separate charge, and it can add up quick. And that's where we're getting these $12,000 a month bills. And so
Sure.
you really need a plan in place and need to look at where you're going
Yep. That's right.
and involve your loved ones in case you ever need long-term care. So I think this discussion is really important.
Yeah.
And now Medicaid, though, a lot of people say, well, doesn't Medicaid cover long-term care? What do you have to say about that?
Well, it does, but it's a joint federal and state program, but it covers low income folks, right? So, and it is the largest source for long term care, because a lot of people get in that situation where they need the Medicaid. So the limits are different from state to state on how much money you get. You have to not have
Right, right.
to get into Medicare.
I think
And
they call it the spend down, right?
the
There's a
spend
spend
down.
down. Like, you have to
Yeah.
spend your own money down to a point, and that
So
point is different in each state, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's different in each state. So basically what happens is you go and you talk to the Medicare person and they say, okay, what are all your assets? And don't try to hide them because they'll find them. They're good at it.
Yeah.
And they will look at all your assets and they say, okay, you're on Medicaid, but you have to sell this, 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 and this. You have to liquidate all the stocks. You have to do all these things. You're down to one car. Hey, your primary residence, that's $750,000. You don't really need that big a house anymore because you're in on Medicaid. You need to be in like a $300,000 house, so they can actually tell you to move.
Yeah.
If you're
They can't leave you without a home and a
no,
car,
no,
but they can leave you with you're not going to get a Ferrari and $1 million home
that's right.
and
Maybe a
still have
different,
Medicaid pay. They're only going to pay
no,
when you're in a reasonable. They're only going to start to kick in money if you have a reasonable. If you own only a reason, you can only own a house up to a certain dollar amount and a car up to a certain dollar amount and have so
right.
much in your bank account, and then they will kick in and cover everything.
Right. And so one of our main goals as retirement planners, and investment advisors is to create that retirement nest egg that can withstand that potential of there's a couple usually going into retirement, and so if that couple is going into retirement, it will safeguard the nest egg if one person has to go into that long-term care service. And so that kind
That
of
is
brings us
huge.
to long-term care insurance that might play a role. It's not the only option, but that's something that we need to address because that's one of the things we want to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to take a minute to let people know, Chris, that this really exemplifies or shines a light on why you want to work with a financial services professional when it comes to long-term care. It's important and complicated, but there's no reason to have to figure it all out by yourself. Like you say, you have
Nope.
people that can help with the Medicare aspect of it and Medicaid aspect of it, but the overall financial plan has to take into account health care and long-term care in retirement. So work with a financial services professional. If you're not already, give Chris and Tara a call. I think that's important. What's that number again, Chris?
So please give us a call at 719-210-4242. If you call and mention the radio show, we offer a complimentary consultation. So please give us a call, 719-210-4242.
All right. And again, mention the radio show when you call, and the consultation is completely no charge. There's no obligation. So, what's next? What else did the article say that you wanted to let us know about?
So the article really breaks down many of the long-term care insurance's most important elements. So first is traditional long-term care insurance works in a similar fashion to both home and auto insurance. So you pay regular premiums, and as long as the policy is in effect and you make all your premiums, then you can make the claims if you ever need any cover services. You can select different amounts of coverage. And to help pay for expenses in or out of the home. So there's some options in these cases. Most policies specify how much you can receive daily or monthly, up to a lifetime max for a defined number of years. Varying amounts may be allowed for care that happens in your home, a nursing home, or any other facility. So this article really explained a lot that you may pay extra for the benefits and that increase over time to protect you from inflation. So that's one of the reasons that this type of long-term care insurance has rising premiums.
Ah, okay. So, does it say anything about waiting periods?
Usually there's a waiting period. It depends. It's usually 30 days. It can take up to 6 months. The most common waiting period is 90 days. So on the first 90 days, usually your health insurance pays, Medicare pays, and then these long-term care policies pay. Um,
Ah,
Now, sometimes you have to pay for those first that first month, first 2 months when you go into the nursing facility because it may take time to get everything going um,
sure.
with that company, and then they off will pay a lot of the things in arrears. So you pay up front, and then they pay you after you showed them a receipt. So I don't know if you've experienced that with your mother yet. Um,
Yes, we did.
so yeah, so that's kind of a pain in the butt that, oh wait, there's somebody in a nursing home. Um, Now they've got to account for all the money that gets paid out, and some people in nursing homes have a difficult time doing that. So they really rely on some nice son like you, Tony, to really help them with that money those money transactions, so that they can get what they're owed from the uh, the company that they have the long term care policy with.
Yeah, that's true. And, it's so important to understand all this. When it happened with my mom, I was not that up on long term care. I knew some things, but my mom and dad
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of money or a lot of insurance. They did. My mom happened to have a long term care insurance
Oh,
policy that
good for
only,
her.
well, but it only, it covered very little.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
compared to what it costs. I mean, it covered a few
Sh-
$100s a month, maybe, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Oh,
crazy, like 100 or 200 a week. Right. So
okay.
that's not, that's a drop in the bucket for what it costs. I think her total cost is 6,000, and she lives in the middle of nowhere. Right. But they
Right.
happen to have a really good, which is rare, state-run facility with really good staff, really clean. She gets such good care there. She actually likes it there. So that's good.
It's surprising how in some of these smaller towns they do have some nice nursing home facilities.
This one is
When
the
my
highest rated in the state of Minnesota.
There you go.
So,
My
yeah.
my grandmother went into a nursing facility out in Wetumpka, Oklahoma. So you can imagine how far that is off the beaten path.
Yeah.
But it was pretty nice. I think the access to doctors was not as good as it could have been, but the nurses that were there were very engaged, right? So
Right.
they were
This one
good.
is in a town of about, it's literally a few hundred people. It's close to our hometown of Worthington, which is like 11,000 people, but
Hmm.
it's an hour away from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which has some
Oh,
of the best medical care now in the country because of Sanford Medical, and Sanford Medical
oh
Research
yeah,
Center is
yeah.
there. So they're drawing in like Mayo Clinic level doctors at the Sanford Medical Center. So
Nice.
sometimes she has to, if they'd have to drive her an hour, but sometimes those Sanford people come to the Sanford facility in Worthington, which is only 15 minutes away. So, and now there's doctors that come there, even though it's in the middle of nowhere. That is the concern for smaller towns, is the level of of doctors and medical care you can receive. But this is really good information. Is there? Let's see, where are we headed now? What else about this article? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, the other thing I want to talk about was another access to long-term care benefits, and that's through what the an article called hybrid plans. And so
Oh,
these are still with insurance companies, but it's called a hybrid plan because it's also attached to maybe an annuity or a life insurance plan. And so you can generally you get access basically to death benefits before you die with these hybrid long-term care plans. So your death benefit may be reduced, but there you'll be able to access all those funds. One of the things that I like about this typical way of doing it is you tell the company, "Hey, I'm going to a nursing home. Here's what it costs. Start sending me money," and they start sending you money.
hmm.
So you don't there's not a there you don't have to track receipts. There's none of that stuff.
Wow.
You just tell them this is what I want, start sending
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And so you as long as you've got a doctor's note, that's all
Right.
you need. And
Wow.
so that way you're not having to track all those a la carte services and make sure you have that on your bill so it gets paid properly and all those kind of things.
Sure.
So
Well,
that's one of
and
the things I like about it.
yeah, so the hybrid, your heirs can receive money if you don't use the benefits. What
That's right.
happens if you do use some of the benefits?
So if you use the benefits will get reduced off of a policy. Say you had a $500,000 policy, and so you started. That's what the death benefit was, a $500,000 death benefit policy. You can use 72% of that policy with most carriers. It's about like
Hmm.
that toward long-term care. So you'd send them the note saying, "I'm going to long-term care. Here's my doctor's note. Here's where I'm going." They start sending you the money. Now they'll start sending you the money based on how much you ask for, right? So you may say, okay, well, I need $100,000 for this year. So, but maybe you stay in the facility for 2 years, so you end up using $200,000. There's still $300,000 that would go to your beneficiaries um,
Hmm.
for that part.
That's
Now,
awesome.
so depends on the policy, right?
Sure.
It's a contract. All contracts are written differently. Um, that's kind of the way the ones that we usually write look like. We want to make sure that um, no matter if you need it or not, you have it, and
Right.
and so that you get the best benefit for the amount of premium you're putting in. Now, there's the premiums are a little bit more with these life insurance death benefit policy that includes long-term care than the auto style of the long-term care policies, but the money doesn't go away, right? So the money is still part of your what we call your financial world. So if you end up not needing long-term care, you can access usually those funds just by getting the cash value out of the policy.
Sure.
So you still have access to that money, even if you never go into long-term care.
Yeah.
So it covers you both ways.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like people have a lot of choices, and I know there are a lot of different strategies out there. So what do people need to consider before they make any final decisions?
Well, they need to consider, exactly how they're going to look at long-term care. How does it fit in their overall financial situation?
Sure.
Can they afford to do something that that creates a better situation for themselves and for their family in the future? Do I need to go with the a la carte menu of just the long-term care insurance that we get via the auto style but the money goes away? So now we've lost that money. So there's things to consider. The other things to consider is longevity. So how long am I going to need the money? Right.
Sure.
So when we do our planning, we have lots of discussions. Have you had somebody in long-term care? How long were they in long-term care? What kind of needs do they have? What kind of costs did you see? And so usually the person that's more informed because they're taking care of a parent or they took care of a grandparent, they understand. They're like, yes, sign us up. Let's get something going so that I'm taken care of and my kids don't have to take care of me. And I don't have to rob their future to spend on mine, or I don't have to rob, the fun of my spouse because I need long-term care and she doesn't want to go on Medicaid with me, right? Because your spouse goes on Medicaid with you in a way, because you have to sell all your stuff and use all your money before you get onto Medicaid. So
right.
These are considerations. Maybe if we spend a little bit of money and we start that plan now, we won't have that situation where you're having to, mitigate somebody else's future. Now I'm 7 years older than Tara, so that's one of the big reasons we have policies for me, is that I know that I'll probably need it. She'll still be very active and want to do things. She won't want to be staying home taking care of a drooling Chris McKinney.
She'll be active and wanting to do things when she's 100. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
I think she might live forever, and she will be wanting to do things. We know this.
She's planning on it.
Well, hey, we're out of time for today's
time.
show. It flew by, but thank you so much, Chris, for all the great information on long-term care. Give that phone number and web address really quick one more time.
Yeah, Tony. So that number is 719-210-4242. Our website is nolanfinancialpartners.com. That's Nolan, Nolan, not the one with the D, for you Colorado Springs people. They always put a D on the end because there's some companies in town with that. But it's nolanfinancialpartners.com. Call us at 719-210-4242. We're offering complimentary consultations for people that call off the radio show.
All right. Sounds great. And that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio with our host, Chris McKinney.
Join us again soon for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio.